that the Culture of Health team and the wellness team of Sarnia has put on that's sponsored by Sarnia She. And she's bringing to us today her amazing topic of her top 10 tips to build a strong immune system. So Jennifer is a registered dietitian and sports nutritionist. Her passion is promoting nutrition and exercise and healthy living that led her to the creation of NutritionRx, where she offers in-person and online nutrition coaching that inspires her clients to improve their eating habits. Her main areas of expertise include healthy eating, sustainable weight loss, sports nutrition, eating disorder recovery, and complicated cases of IBS. Jennifer upholds a non-dieting philosophy where she teaches people to become more intuitive and mindful eaters to support their healthy long-term nutrition habits, ultimately helping them to build a positive relationship with food and their fitness to last a lifetime. As a part of the Dietitians of Canada panel of healthcare nutrition experts, Jennifer has put together a research presentation of the top 10 nutrition and lifestyle strategies to keep our immune systems in tip-top shape as we embrace fully living our lives again. Leaning on her expertise as a university professor and registered dietitian, our online presentation today will cover helpful and practical evidence-based advice on supporting our immune systems. So without further ado, thank you, Jennifer, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Okay, I'm going to switch to screen share mode. For anyone that's coming in late, we've got a couple people in the waiting room. I'm going to hand that over to you. You're going to man the waiting room, and we're just going to dive right in. And I know a few of you are probably watching this on replay, so I want to extend a warm welcome to our folks joining later on video replay, as well as all the folks who are able to make it out today for the talk. Okay, so give me 1 second. I'm going to screen share so you guys can hopefully see what I see. And okay. So I'm going to skip right through the introduction because that was a fantastic welcome. And I want to get into, at the cellular level, what exactly is going on with our body's immune system. So it starts with our white blood cells. And think of these guys, I often like to refer to them as our little Navy SEAL members of our internal community, where they are very responsive to exactly what like a healthy human would respond to. So the way that we eat, the way that we sleep and rest our bodies, the way that we manage our stress, even just giving our bacteria or giving our white blood cells some space from germs that we could pick up. All of those are going to give our internal military a much better time at fighting disease. Now, today's presentation, because I am a registered dietitian, is entirely focused around the nutrition arm of this particular barrage of support, but I will touch quickly into stress at the end of today's presentation, because there's a really interesting connection between stress management and immune function as well. So the first thing I want to actually start with is the idea of actually mindset. And partly, I don't want to say the P word or the C word because it's been a traumatic 2 years of so many changes and so much stress. But if the last 2 years have taught us anything, there are a lot of factors in the world that are out of our control, and they can have a very large impact on our mental health. So when I work with nutrition clients one-on-one, one of the mental health exercises that we do is we call this exercise the 3 spheres of control. There are things that you have total control over. There are going to be things that you can influence and have some control over. And then there's some things that you have absolutely no control over. Another government shutdown, whether you agree with it or not, you don't have control over that. So I remind people, I want to use the analogy for you guys listening of basketball. I want you to think about 3 colored balls, green, yellow, red, and 3 color hoops, green, yellow, red. If you've been dribbling a ball in your mind and ruminating and obsessing and ruminating and obsessing and complaining, and you look down and you realize the color of the ball is red, I need you to put that red ball on the ground, set it aside. The best thing you can do with a problem that you have no control over is to actually put that ball down. Then the next best thing you can do is to put your energy, your mindset, your focus, your attention into the greens and some of the yellows. So, what might be some things that we have full control over? Well, today I'm going to give you some ideas around food and the way that you're fueling your body to help your white blood cells, help your immune system be as healthy as possible. We can do things to set up our environment for success to make the healthy choice the easy choice. We might be a little bit more disciplined with our sleep routine, or maybe we even use an app, something like the Freedom app, which I like this app because you can make a decision in your sane right of mind, where it's almost like parental controls for yourself, where you're like, okay, don't let my phone go on Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok after 10:30 p.m. because I know that's when I need to get to sleep and I don't want to get sucked into, the rabbit hole of social media. So this app lets you, pick times of day that you black out certain sites. So those are just some silly examples. But if you get kind of where I'm going with this analogy, I want you to think about swish, swish, swish. Find those green balls, pick them up, and start getting points in the basket. And so that's exactly what we're going to talk about from a nutrition standpoint. Okay. So I wholeheartedly believe that what we put into our body affects us on every possible level, right down to our cells. So it is the, quickness that my hair grows out of my head. It's the strength of my fingernails. It's the energy I wake up with in the morning. It's the recovery from the workouts that I do. But it's also the growth, the repair, the healing of our tissues. Food is our first form of medicine. If we want to stay off antibiotics, if we want to have to avoid, the medical system because our bodies are well cared for and taking care of themselves, we start with food. This is such an important place. And so I always like to ask questions in my presentation so that you can think and reflect about what I'm sharing in your own life. Now, I want you to go in your mind's eye to your fridge, your freezer, and your pantry. I want to also preface the 3 words I used last presentation because they're such important words. Be curious, be kind, and be honest. So no inner bullies allowed, but I do want you to think of it like you're watching a security tape and you're just sort of looking into almost someone else's life. Now, better is better, forward is forward. If I came over as a guest, as your dietitian say, and I opened your fridge, and I opened your freezer, and I opened your pantry, would I see a medicine chest of nutritiously dense, wholesome foods, that are easy accessible, the healthy choice is the easy choice? Or would I see a lot of things that start to move me away from the direction of health? Maybe things that are higher in sugar. And again, sugar in itself isn't bad, but if it's a little too high percent of our diet, it can create inflammation. It can create health concerns. So am I going to say that you can't have a cookie or some ice cream or a donut on a random Tuesday because you want that? No, I believe in a healthy relationship with food and these mindful, joyful eating experiences. But I think about food in 3 categories, kind of like those 3 color basketball nets. Green foods, or kind of level 3, the highest quality foods, are what nature actually grew or raised or swam in the ocean and intended us to eat. This is our broccoli and our apples and our blueberries and our flax seeds and our oats and our beans and our chickens and our eggs and milk and salmon and all of the above and more. So you could really recognize the way that this food came from nature. I want you to almost in your mind's eye, think of that as nature's medicine chest. Then we have sort of a second tier of foods that we're going to sort of put in the middle. These are foods that are somewhat processed. So whole wheat bread, lentil pasta, granola bars that have nuts and dried fruit in them. But, there's still some nutritional value there. Absolutely. However, they're just starting to move a little bit away from that nature's cabinet, that nature's test. And then our final category of foods, the ones we're going to kind of put in the lowest quality. Again, I'm not going to use bad food language, but I like to think of it as, the joyful foods we're only going to do once in a while with mindful permission. And it's not a cheat day. It's not a cheat meal. Think of it kind of like a rest day to complement many days of working out. That rest day allows you the space to breathe, the sanity to sort of have a day off, to have your body sort of recoup. Those joy food experiences, the eating out with friends, the having the pieces of birthday cake, the having the cookie because you want it, those are all okay. But if they're a huge majority of your home environment, that's something we want to move a little bit along the spectrum. And what I like to remind my nutrition clients is better, forward is forward. So you might hear me say that a few times today. So in your own reflection, I want you to think about a score out of 10, 0 being like, uh-oh, not eating nature's foods, and 10 being like, wow, I basically have an organic farm. Like, come on over, there's nothing more to do. And PS, you don't have to be perfect. I don't think I could give myself a 10, but if you could hover somewhere around maybe a 6.5, a 7, an 8, 8.5, ultimately, if you're able to get yourself to that 8 out of 10, that's a really great place to be. So think right now in your own mind's eye, what score would you give your pantry? I think for me, that's probably where my lowest score would be. What score would you give your fridge out of 10? And what score would you give your freezer? Now, for some people, their freezer is where it kind of it falls off the cliff for them. I'm going to show you in a few slides some of the things we do in our freezer as an example, but I want you to just think about what number would you assign to each of those 3 parts of your kitchen. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is it's a little bit of just like good nutrition year round, but this becomes especially helpful when we're in sort of like sickness, transmissible disease season, cold and flu, and the other word I won't mention because I know we're all burnt out on it, is the skill and the habit of batch cooking. One of the things that's so great about batch cooking is it's a way to almost like, I call it selective willpower. You use little spurts of selective willpower to help your future self out on a day that you might get a runny nose and feel sick or have low energy, on a day that it's a hectic work night and you got to drive the kids around to activities opening up and you need to just eat something that's healthy but quick and doesn't take too many dishes and time to prepare. I also actually like this so that if someone in your house does get sick, is isolating from everyone else, maybe that's something that you can just pop in the microwave and bring up to their room. Or if they're home alone and everyone's at work, but they're still sick fighting an illness, as opposed to them going through all the cupboards and rummaging through the fridge, quickly reach in, go to the freezer, grab a healthy meal, and then they can microwave it and have something warm and nourishing to eat and warm themselves up. So you get the efficiency win of dedicating some time to making some nutritious meals. And then you're still ensuring that that nature's medicine is going into your body. So ideally for a high quality meal, we're looking to have something that is for lunches and dinners, roughly 50% veggies. So about the size of your outstretched hand, could be less, could be more, but that's a good place to start. We want to look as well for maybe about a palm size or at least just a portion of protein. And protein, we're going to talk about a little bit later in today's presentation, is one of the most critical things your immune system needs when it's fighting an active infection. So very important that we have, whether it's a plant-based or an animal-based or a seafood-based source of protein. And then if you're fairly active, we definitely want to make sure that there's some carbohydrate as part of the meal, but pulling from more of those level 3 nature's carbohydrates. So things like quinoa or brown rice or wild rice or squash or sweet potato or even white potato. Now, I'm not talking French fries or potato chips. I'm talking baked potatoes, roasted potatoes, like the real potato is still in its form. But anything that kind of falls from that starchy vegetable family, even things like peas or turnips or parsnips, all of those can count. And in a pinch, sometimes I even like to have clients just use a piece of fruit as their carbohydrate for the meal. If you're like stressed out with trying to cook grains or if you have a gluten sensitivity, but what we want to do is build our meal around that. The middle picture on the screen that you guys can hopefully see is something I also like to do, especially through the cold and flu season, which is to make a weekly snack bucket. So I find that this takes me about 10 minutes a week. And I just think about a few different snacks to mix and match throughout my week. So I might wash a few apples. I might have a few different things of washed up fruit. I might make a few little containers of vegetables. Those are in the back, a part of the shot, some protein bars that are homemade from this local farmer's market here in London. So it's like flaxseed and natural peanut butter and some oats and dried fruit and nuts and some protein powder. And they're just like made locally. It's like your mom baking you a little homemade bar. It could be yogurt, could be sources of cheese. And then what I do is I just drop all my snacks in for the week into this little snack bucket. And then either I can pull from it through the week and help myself to healthy snacks. It's really easy to pack lunches, or because I actually work out of a gym, I would just bring my snack bucket to my office and I have my own little fridge there. And on Mondays, I bring the full bucket of snacks, into work. And on Fridays, I bring the empty bucket back home, do the dishes, rinse and repeat each weekend. But can you see, it doesn't mean that it has to be perfect and we're like bodybuilding, planning out our meals, but you're giving yourself a system. Again, I'm going to use that phrase, to make the healthy choice the easy choice. The next thing, sort of in parallel to this, is I've spoken a little bit about veggies, but I want to go deeper and why they play such an important role to immune health. So one thing that's really, really critical is variety. And I'm going to talk about that from two perspectives. First perspective is from the vitamin and mineral standpoint. And the second perspective is actually about our gut microbiome, our probiotic bacteria. So let's start with vitamins and minerals first. Fruits and veggies are like the best gift from nature. They are basically a little pill or packet, but there's no toxicity to eating them. And they're so full of the important immune boosting vitamins and minerals. Specifically, we're going to spend some time on vitamin C today, but vitamin C we get very abundantly from fruits and veggies. So instead of buying the vitamin C candies, which is what the vitamin C pills are, full of sugar, we can get our vitamin C needs met from fresh fruits and veggies. Beyond that, I want to talk about the little critters that live inside of us. And they're referred to as our probiotics or our gut microbiome or gut bacteria, whatever you want to call it. What research is starting to show is they play a very important role in our immune function. Think of them kind of like an extra layer of protection that lines our GI tract. And we have enough of the right kinds of healthy bacteria, it stops some of the bad bacteria that could make us sick and could get us infected. They kind of make a coating that makes it hard for the bacteria to cross the cell membrane and then get into our bloodstream and make us sick. So our immunity actually starts right in the level of the layer of our GI tract. And so fresh fruits and veggies have another important nutrient called folate. Folate is used by any cells that grow very, very quickly. What's interesting is that GI cells replace themselves every 3 days. So here's why that fact is really important to know. Our GI cells have these little finger-like projections called villi. So think of them like seaweed tentacles that sort of like float and dangle along the bottom of the ocean floor. And these villi slurp nutrition out of our food. So they slurp up protein, they slurp up carbohydrates, they slurp up fat, they slurp vitamins and minerals. And so these healthy tentacles are the main way that we bring nutrition into our body. But because they grow so rapidly, they need folate to support their rapid growth. Now, what color do you think folate is associated to? I'll give you a hint. It's something that probably your parents tried to get you to eat a lot of when you were little. It's especially found in dark green vegetables. So this is our spinach, our bok choy, our kale, our broccoli, our asparagus. If it's deep dark green, it's a really good source of folate and it's really, really good for us. So how is folate connected to immunity? Well, if those villi don't have a lot of folate, they might not grow in as well and as strong. Sometimes we can get things like leaky gut syndrome where there's gaps and junctions between the cells, which makes it easier for bacteria to make its way into our bloodstream and infect us. So by eating a wide variety of vitamins and minerals, a wide variety of fruits and veggies, we get our folate, we get our vitamin C. Our probiotic bacteria, this is their food. So I'm going to introduce a concept a bit later on called a prebiotic. But what a prebiotic is it's food that then feeds our probiotic bacteria. You know what our gut microbiome live off of? Fruits and vegetables for the most part. A little bit from beans and legumes, a little bit from things like oats and some of those grains, but their favorite food in the world to keep them healthy and well nourished is fruits and veggies. So can you see right at the layer of immunity, if we don't eat enough colorful fruits and vegetables, we might be deficient in vitamin C, we might be deficient in folate, our villi aren't as healthy, and our healthy bacteria that live further down, they don't make as great of a wall to protect our bloodstream from foreign invaders, and they're not happy. So it all kind of connects back to fruits and veggies. Now, one of the things I like to do as a dietitian is not just give sort of like theoretical knowledge. It's important to me that I help you guys in the audience translate this into action. So I can't help myself. I'm a university prof and I love to make things into a game because one of my areas of research was to study the psychology of how people change their behavior. So there's a ton of research to show people who turn behavior change into little challenges, little points, little games have a better chance of success than people who just try to white knuckle willpower it. So one of the things I'm holding up here that you can also see a larger copy on in the screen is this fruit and veggie challenge. There are about 110 different colored fruits and veggies in total. And the way that the game works, hopefully this is coming through, is you would just simply hang this on your fridge. And as you eat one of the colors, one of the foods from the list, you just check it off. Now, not when you buy it and it goes into the veggie drawer and rots in the drawer of death, a sad, wilted, destruction. It only counts if you buy it and you eat it. So don't give yourself the point if you grocery shop for it and then the cantaloupe gets thrown in the garbage because no one cut it open and obviously it went bad. So like excited little kids, when I give this activity to my clients during cold and flu season, they'll come back and they'll be like, Jen, like, look, I just got 56 things this month. Like I just ate more variety than I ever have. So it turns it into a fun activity. It turns it into kind of a challenge. There's no right or wrong. It's just, how high can you get the number to go? And I'm going to go back to an interesting fact about our gut microbiome. People tend to have the best bacterial diversity when they eat 20 different fruits and veggies a week. Oh, now I know that might sound like a big number. And for some people, if you're only at 1 or 2 or 3, getting to 5 is an improvement, or getting to 8 is an improvement, or getting to 12 is an improvement. Remember the phrase, better is better, forward is forward. So even if you're just creeping your own variety number along, you're going to be in a healthier place. Now, if you like the sounds of playing this game, please email me. I am all for sharing resources and giving things out for free. So my email is just on the screen there. If you have your phone nearby, if you want to just send me a quick email and just write, veggie fruit rainbow, my email there is info@nutritionrx.ca. And super happy to send you a copy. And if you can print it out, it's super fun to play. I always make my husband play it with me when we do it. And he always says at the end of the month, he feels better having gone through the rainbow. So it's a really fun activity. Email me and I'm going to share that. Happy to do so. The next tip I like to give that kind of complements the rainbow game is this idea about making your environment support the right decisions. And I always kind of say my job as a nutrition coach is not to really teach people what the vitamins and minerals are in their food. I actually think my role is more to support you guys and people just like you to translate all that knowledge and translate all those good intentions into day-to-day actions. So we all know what we, should be doing to eat well, but the reality is we're busy or stressed, there's lots of demands and competing priorities, and it's easy to brush those good intentions aside for one more night. Next week, when things settle down, kind of get back into these good routines. Where I want you to think of it a lot like brushing your teeth. If we put your toothbrush and toothpaste right beside the sink, it's a lot easier to do the daily habit. And that speaks to the power of the environment shaping the things we do every day. So another one of my favorite tips is to get people to make a veggie bucket. And there's a specific time in the week I want to encourage you to do this. It's the moment you come home with groceries in your hands. I don't know if you do what I do, which is can I get all the bags on 2 arms? Heck no, I'm only doing 1 trip. So you're already kind of mentally in chore mode when you go grocery shopping, right? I would guess none of you guys would leave, raw chicken on your counter for 3 hours or a package of yogurt and be like, I'll get to that in 5 hours, no big deal. It's ingrained that as you unpack your groceries, you put things away where they belong. Well, this is something I learned in a psych class when I was in undergraduate school. We learned about the power of anchoring. Anchoring is when you want to glue a habit to something that already exists. So let me give you an example that's not connected to food. Many women maybe or anyone who has long hair, I shouldn't generalize to a gender, might know that if they shampoo their hair, they often or usually are going to do conditioner afterwards. So the conditioner is anchored to the shampooing. So sometimes I take showers where I just throw my hair up in a scrunchie and it's more of like a body shower. Well, I would never put conditioner in my hair in that moment because it didn't follow the shampoo. But I can promise you, if I start to shampoo my hair, I don't even notice that I'm reaching for the conditioner next. They are so glued together, shampoo, then condition, that they're anchored. They're locked together for life. So that's kind of what our prof was explaining about how anchoring works. Is if you want a really good habit to stick around, can you find something that already has permanency in your day-to-day life that you could try to glue this good habit to? And so we were given the task to think about how we might try to anchor something in our own lives. And so I was a nutrition student in this psych class, and I was like, you know what? I was really frustrated with myself that I kept buying good vegetables, putting them in my vegetable drawer, and then I nicknamed it the drawer of death. It's where good intentions went to die. And I was a broke student. I didn't have the money for my vegetables to go rotten and not eat them. I mean, I ate some, but I didn't get through all of them. So I tried this experiment from class. The moment I got home from grocery shopping, I would wash my veggies like the second I got in the house, and then pull out a cutting board and chop, chop, chop. And it took about 5 minutes. I put a paper towel in the bottom. I always tried to get some veggies that wouldn't go bad very quickly. So things like snow peas or grape tomatoes, for example. If I got cucumbers, I'd often just buy the baby cucumbers and like eat the little baby cucumbers whole. Or I buy a full cucumber and cut them in fat strips. So then that way they wouldn't get like super slimy super quickly. But it doesn't really matter the exact veggies that you like. The point of this example is that because this is now anchored to grocery shopping, every single week that I come home with fresh groceries, this is now shampoo my hair, condition follows, buy groceries, make a veggie bucket. So if you've never ever thought about the principle of anchoring before, it is, like I said, I can't help myself. I'm a nerdy, university prof. It's a really helpful way to shape your behavior so that you can take the good intentions in your brain and make them connect into everyday life. So give that a try. Another way I really encourage people to eat well to protect their immunity is the benefit of adding some protein into their snacks. So snacks often are an underused place where we can get a little bit more protein in. And one way that I find really easy to do this is I just nickname this in my head, but pick 2, make 10. I like simplicity, and I find there's so much coming at us in the world today. Decision fatigue is a really real thing. And I just got sick in the mornings or at night of being like, okay, what am I going to feed myself today? So I started this idea of let's just have an idea for my morning snack and my afternoon snack for this week. And then with efficiency, I could just make 5 of the AM snack and 5 of the PM snack, and then load that in my little snack bucket. Boom, the week of snack planning is done. I'm making sure that I have a source of protein with each item that I'm eating. I always try to do a fruit or a veggie and then some kind of a protein source to make a really nutritious balanced snack. And then all that you do for vitamin and mineral exposure, because yeah, you're right, if you eat the same thing every day, that could start to get boring and you might start to be lacking some important vitamins and minerals. You just change it up. So the next week, maybe it is some blueberries and Greek or skyr yogurt, and maybe it's some hard-boiled eggs and some pears. And it's just as easy to boil 5 eggs or 10 eggs as it is to boil just a single hard-boiled egg. So that, again, makes it really efficient. And then yet the next week, you just pick 2 new ideas and on you go. So don't worry about copying, my ideas on the screen. It's more the template I wanted to give you as a way to bring protein up just a little bit. It's a really important nutrient for our white blood cells, but a great way to do that is to pair that into your snacks. So remember I said I was going to expand on a few really important nutrients for immune health. The 4 I wanted to share some research on today are protein, vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. Sometimes you'll even see people go crazy in the drugstores where they'll the vitamin C section of the store is wiped out, or everyone's buying zinc throat lozenges because, they heard zinc might help when you have a sore throat. Is there some scientific validity to that or not? Can you do this from real foods or not? I want to share that with you next. So I'm going to start with the first nutrient on the screen, which is protein. And I kind of hinted that they play a really big role with our white blood cells. But how does that actually work in terms of the science in real life? I'm really visual, so I hope the visual diagram helps you understand what I'm going to talk about. I also like to share a lot of funny, weird analogies and stories. Because I teach a first year foods and nutrition class, I just find if I tell a simple story, the students can remember it come exam time. Now, I promise I'm not quizzing you guys at the end of today's talk, but I hope that this analogy sticks. Think of your white blood cells like having these ninja throwing stars. So they're like, "Wah!" And so they'll whip these little Y-shaped ninja throwing stars. These are what we call antibodies. And they whip them at foreign invaders. So they'll do this to cancer cells. They'll do this to, cold germs and viruses and flu and anything basically that shouldn't be inside of our body gets sort of marked with these Y-shaped sticks. And then if you can see in the third and fourth square of the diagram, our white blood cells have these receptors on the outside that search for these antibody sticks attached to the foreign invader. And that tells the white blood cell, destroy it, go crush this thing. Now, what happens if we undereat protein? We've got one version of white blood cells that do the ninja star throwing, but if they reach into their pocket and there's no ninja stars to be found, they can't then mark the foreign invader, and the foreign invader has a better and easier time growing, multiplying. And then the killer white blood cell that's out searching for these marked antibody covered foreign invaders, it goes, well, I guess there's no problem because I don't see any antibody sticks covering this issue. So protein, can you see the connection between protein and immunity? We need to eat enough dietary protein. So certain types of white blood cells have these antibody sticks, they're ninja throwing stars, so they can start whipping them and tagging things that get into our body that shouldn't be there. And then the other set of white blood cells, they scavenge around looking for foreign invaders that are marked with antibody sticks. And that's their cue. This is bad. Get this out of here. Engulf it, destroy it. And they have their own chemicals and ways that they break it down. But this is essentially how this process works. So that's the key thing on protein. Okay, next slide. So the next nutrient I want to spend some time on is vitamin C. You already heard me talk about the importance of eating lots of fruits and veggies. This is where our vitamin C comes from. But I wanted to share you a list of some of the top sources. So a lot of people know that citrus fruits, right? Oranges, lemons, grapefruit, limes, they are a wonderful source of vitamin C. As well, people forget that vegetables have vitamin C. So broccoli has a great amount of vitamin C to it. Bell peppers are like off the chart in their vitamin C. So if you snack on bell peppers, if you go and put them in your veggie bucket, if you add them to your stir fries, bell peppers, amazing source. And then but we're back to that dark green color yet again. So not only do the dark green veggies have folate, but things like kale and Brussels sprouts, they're a really amazing source of vitamin C. Now, there are some links between vitamin C and immunity, but I want to point one thing out if you take vitamin C supplements. So there's a misguided thought in the supplement world that some is good, so a lot must be really, really good. And that's actually not the case. In vitamin C specifically, it interacts with another mineral called iron. So you've maybe heard of this interaction before. If you know someone that's a plant-based eater or is going vegan or vegetarian, one of the ways we can absorb more iron out of plant-based foods is to pair it with a source of vitamin C. I don't know if anyone's heard that before, but fun little nutrition tangent of the day. Well, why do I mention vitamin C and iron? In really, really high doses, vitamin C, remember, attracts iron to it. So in really, really high doses of supplemental vitamin C, you can pull more iron out of your food than your body was meant to. And you can actually sometimes have some heavy metal damage related to high iron intake. Now, there's a word for this. Normally, we think of vitamin C as an antioxidant. Antioxidant, protects us against free radical damage, protects our cells against cancer. In doses above 2,000 milligrams a day, so I'll say that again, 2,000 is the dose that kind of starts to create problems, which isn't far off from a lot of the vitamin C pills. So a lot of the vitamin C pills are 500 milligrams. So 2,000 is 4 vitamin C pills a day. Just wanted to give some context. At 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C, it will start to actually cause high amounts of iron to start to come into your body. And that heavy metal of iron is known to be what we call a pro-oxidant. So it's the opposite of the antioxidant. If an antioxidant protects us against cancer, protects us against free radical damage, a pro-oxidant actually starts that process of free radical damage and chaos and the possible destruction of our DNA resulting in a cancer cell. So food will never, ever, ever take you to that level. And just to give you context, how much do most adults need from food? About 75 to 90 milligrams a day. Smokers actually need a tiny bit more vitamin C than non-smokers because of the damage that smoking is doing to the lungs, and vitamin C is involved in trying to repair some of that damage. But even like a smoker might only need up to 120 milligrams of vitamin C per day. So you can see that those supplements of vitamin C are very high in sugar, and quite quickly, if you're popping them like candy on a day that you don't feel well, could take you past the 2,000 milligrams. So I just want to remind you that some is good, but high doses are not necessarily better or safer. And that's sort of the number you should pay attention to if you ever do take them on a bottle. Quick show in the chat. Is that a new piece of information or is that well known? I'm curious if I've taught you something new, hopefully, or maybe this is like, old news, Jen. I've known that for a long time. So throw that in the chat. That might be interesting to see what people are saying. Okay. So the next nutrient I want to move now on to is vitamin D. So vitamin D seems to play a role in our DNA and our immunity, but especially it has a correlation. So what a correlation means is that there's a link, but we're not exactly sure of the relationship of how the two are connected. But they've found that people who have higher blood levels of vitamin D have a lower chance of developing an acute respiratory illness. And they've even, I'm going to pull up a quick study, done some research specifically to kind of SARS-CoV. Oh, I said it. I was going to try not to say that word today, but to those types of infections. So what early research in the pandemic was showing is that people coming into the hospitals who had better blood levels of vitamin D got out of the hospital a lot quicker. And early 2 years ago, from when I'm presenting this, that we were finding people that were needing to go on ventilators and were very, very sick. I was part of a nutrition panel with Dietitians of Canada, and they were seeing a correlation that people who had low levels of vitamin D weren't doing as well when they got sick. So we know that there's a connection. We're not exactly sure how that relationship works, but I want to take it from the science into the practical parts of your day-to-day life. So really quickly, I want to just focus on supplementation. Now I'm backtracking on the advice I gave earlier. Remember earlier I said whole foods first? Wah, wah. We live in Canada, or I'm assuming I'm speaking to mostly Canadians. We do not have the odds in our favor for vitamin D up here. So I will present to you the whole food options, but I'll show you why it's going to be really tough to do this one from whole foods alone. So if you like salmon, if you like tuna, awesome. That's a source of vitamin D. Do you know how much you have to eat to get your day's worth? Oh, a good 5 to 6 pieces of fish every single day. 5 to 6 ounces, I should say. So if you're willing to grill up some salmon every single day, and that be your protein every single day, then you're fine. Ignore my supplementation advice. Moving on to the next food that you can get vitamin D from, milk. Here in our country of Canada, we fortify milk with a little bit of vitamin D, as do most developed nations around the world. So do you know how much milk you have to drink per day to get your needs met from whole foods? Oh, a good 1.5 liters. Just drink a whole 1.5 liters to yourself, 1.5 liters day after day after day, and your vitamin D needs will be met. Okay, that's a little ridiculous. My third food is an even more ridiculous suggestion. So eggs, specifically the egg yolk, that is a source of vitamin D. You have to have 30 egg yolks a day. No, that's not happening. Like, that's just insane. And then finally, the last food is mushrooms, but you have to eat 5 cups of mushrooms every single day. None of these suggestions are practical. Oh, and I left one off the list. Margarine has a little bit of vitamin D, but it's about 21 teaspoons of margarine a day. Like, please don't do that. As a dietitian, I'm asking you, please don't do that. That would not be good for other reasons. So you can see that we just can't really meet our needs up here from food alone. So my recommendation, if you're not taking a vitamin D supplement between the months of April to about May, you're going to need it. Your blood levels are just going to drop. OHIP won't even pay for vitamin D blood testing anymore for the general public unless there's a really good medical reason, because basically every Canadian is vitamin D deficient unless they're on supplements. So, quick thing about supplements: vitamin D is a fat soluble nutrient. What that means is you have to eat or take in a source of fat at the same time that you're accessing vitamin D in order to absorb it into your GI tract. So if you take vitamin D pills, but you take them with a glass of water or a black coffee or a meal that doesn't have any fat, you're not absorbing the vitamin D pill. So pair that with a meal that has fat. It doesn't have to be a lot of fat, even just like a few nuts, a little scoop of peanut butter, some oil to cook your veggies, but you need some fat. I prefer to recommend to my nutrition clients the vitamin D drops because they come pre-mixed with an MCT oil or a medium chain triglyceride. So the drops come with the fat and the vitamin D, and you can just drop them on your food. It's really easy. They don't have a taste, they don't have an odor. You don't even know that you're taking in the supplement. And if you've got little ones and kids, they also need vitamin D supplementation, same as adults. It's easy just to drop it on each family member's meal and like, boom, you're done when you serve the dinner. So that would be my advice with vitamin D. If you're not on it and we're still not getting a lot of sun, you could absolutely still can take vitamin D. If you wear like SPF 50 and you don't go in the sun in the summer, you probably need to take vitamin D year round. But there is a correlation to immune health and vitamin D. The last nutrient I want to focus on is zinc. So zinc plays a role with a certain type of white blood cell called our T helper cells. So again, I won't get into the research studies, but there's lots there. But we seem to see that people who have great zinc status do a much better job fighting off infection. So in a moment, I'm going to share some whole food ideas and a way that we can boost this up. One of the resources I love to give clients is another game, I can't help myself, called the Whole Food Nutrition Guide, which is on the screen. If you'd also like a copy of this resource, send me a message at info@nutritionrx.ca and I'll totally email this to you for free. No problem. What it is it has the different vitamins and minerals. So minerals are on one side, the vitamins are on the back. I'm a science nerd, as if you haven't guessed. So I like to share what does each nutrient do for the body. And I specifically outlined which ones play a role in immunity. And then the game part is on the right-hand side. These are the whole food sources. So I hinted that I was going to read you about zinc. So what you can do with this game is you can hang it on your fridge. And as just like the veggie and fruit rainbow game, as you start to eat more of the foods from the list, you can go and check them off and make sure you're getting a wide variety of these vitamins and minerals. So let me give zinc as an example. Zinc comes from oysters, crab, scallops, lobsters, clams, mussels, so a lot of shellfish and seafood, as well as beef, lamb, pork, turkey, wild rice, and whole grains. And then more on the plant side of things, we have things like pumpkin seeds, soy nuts, lentils, lima beans. Oh, and I left yogurt off the list, yogurt as well. So what you can kind of do is a self-assessment of, okay, she talked about folate, she talked about vitamin C, she talked about zinc, she talked about protein, and you can sort of self-assess, are you eating the right kinds of whole foods? Again, going back to that nature's chest to help yourself meet your immune function requirements. So I've already talked a little bit about probiotics, and I know I just want to be mindful of time because I had a bit of a late start. These guys, as I said, are the bacteria that live inside of us. They place a fuzzy little carpet between our villi and what's passing through our GI tract. They have a host of other beneficial properties to the body. So they help with, diarrhea and constipation and bloating. But we do know that people with healthier gut microbiomes get sick less often. I should say something though about antibiotics really quickly. Antibiotic medications almost act like a bomb that is trying to go off and blow up not so good bacteria, but the good probiotics, they get sort of injured in the process of taking an antibiotic. So if you have been sick enough to require an antibiotic, then you need to make sure that you take probiotics following a course of antibiotics. I shared a really fantastic internet research. It's super scientific, but very simple for the public, highly evidence-based, and it's called probioticchart.ca. And it shows you some of the different name brands that are out there, the different strains that the bacteria are in those pills, and then what types of conditions do the different supplement brands best suit themselves for. So they've got information. If you're sick with this type of illness, these probiotics tend to be best. If you have a lot of digestive upset, these kind of probiotics tend to be best. So if you want to take a quick screenshot, absolutely go to that website and you can help yourself to the information there. Okay. So again, I'm not going to talk about COVID, so we'll just put that away. So I also hinted that these little critters that live inside of us, they're living, like they have to actually eat something. So the scientific name of the food that our probiotic bacteria eat is referred to as prebiotics. These are these non-digestible fibers that come from fruits and veggies and beans and nuts and stuff like that. This is our favorite food to feed our bacteria. So again, I want to ask you just a curious, kind, honest question as a self-reflection. When you look at the list that I have on the screen there, in the last week, how many items from that list have you eaten? So kind of add it up in your head, 2, 5, 15. Are there some weird ones on there that you're like, never seen that before, never had that before in my life? Is there one area that you might be willing to expand into just with that curious, open, inquisitive way of exploring food? So yeah, I'm seeing kind of like 2, maybe 3. If you're not eating, like I said, it's a total of about 20 different things a week, or no, per week, not per day. 20 is a lot per day. 20 a week of different fruits and veggies. These are the things that make your gut microbiome get better. I could probably talk about this topic all day. If this is not your jam, I'll move along. I nerd out on IBS and gut health all the time, so I have to cut myself off. But I did want to share that with you guys because they do play such an important role for digestion. The other thing to think about for immune health, I've talked a lot about food, is also hydration. So when we're sick, we might be sweating a lot because our temperature is fluctuating all over the place. We might be throwing up. We might have diarrhea, or maybe we have a GI bug or some food poisoning. One thing I often like to recommend to my clients, just to sneak in some vitamin C from citrus, is to just make a mug of boiling water and put a splash of lemon in it, or maybe even a bit of lemon and honey if you need a bit of sweetness. But you're going to get some vitamin C from the lemon and obviously some hydrating like fluids. Even if you're feeling really sick, this is a little gross to mention, pardon me for having to be really like gritty about this, but if you have a lot of diarrhea, you poop out a lot of salt. So if you have like dumping diarrhea and that form of an illness, I often like to recommend people drink a salty beverage, and the easiest is actually just warmed up soup broth. So that's also one reason why when people are sick, especially with GI stuff, why soup often makes them feel a lot better is because you lose salt really rapidly when you got periods of diarrhea. Normally water and salt get reabsorbed in our large intestine or colon, but if it's moving out too rapidly, you can't absorb the salt. So you might find that you're craving saltier foods, but you can circumvent that by taking in some salts up front. So I just like to recommend warm mugs of soup broth if you've been sick. Oh, I just saw a question about Gatorade. Yep, electrolytes, right? That's exactly what those electrolyte beverages do, is they've got the salt, they've got the potassium, they've got the magnesium that when you're having diarrhea, those nutrients fly out of your body. So keeping those electrolyte beverages around can also be a good strategy if you're that kind of sick. Sorry, that was a little gross. I talk about poop all the time as a dietitian. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but like it happens. You got to know what to do if you're in that position, right? All right. As I wrap up today, the last thing I want to talk about is actually a non-food strategy, and it's about our stress. So I wanted to quickly define why we might get sick and how stress is connected to that. So we have 2 neurological systems. We've got our kind of stress-based system, which is referred to as the sympathetic nervous system. I think it's the letter S for siren, like, oh my God, screaming, sirens, like chaos. This is our fight or flight system. When we're sleep deprived, when we're anxious, when there's lots of turmoil, which let's look at the last 2 years, we've been in a lot of that, this nervous system kicks up. The other nervous system that we have starts with the letter peace. And I always think of a little peaceful meditating frog, P for parasympathetic, P for peace. This system is our rest, digest, and recover system. This is also the system that supports our white blood cells and healing. So I want to point something out. Notice that when you get sick, you often also feel really tired and you need to sleep more hours. Your body is pulling you into parasympathetic recovery because of when it can make you go to sleep, when it can make you slow down, when it can make you lie in bed, this system can kick in. So, how do we proactively keep our parasympathetic system really happy and in the forefront? Well, prioritizing our sleep, going to bed on time, sleeping enough hours every night gives your immune system a huge head start. Even if the little tickle of a bug gets into your throat, people who are well slept are better at catching that little guy, whipping their antibody sticks, having the white blood cells engulf them, and it never turns into a full-blown infection. Gentle exercise is okay while you're sick, but kind of avoid the really vigorous, hardcore need to really heal muscles, quite demanding. That actually makes it harder for you to get over illness. So gentle exercise, okay while sick, really intense, stressful exercise, maybe back off until you're feeling 100%. Things like meditation and deep breathing help to activate this parasympathetic recovery system. There's cool research around pets, laughter, and music stimulating our immune system. So this is a cool stat, but people who laugh more and belly laugh more frequently get sick less often. And we don't know if it's related to like the chemicals and hormones that are released when you feel good and you're laughing. Maybe you just have better social health and that's why you're laughing all the time. Maybe you're just a more chill, jovial person. I don't know. But there's a correlation there between laughter and immunity. So that's kind of interesting. And actively doing things to manage your stress, right? Shutting down, powering down at the end of the workday, taking time to eat dinner slowly, be with our families, schedule times to go for walks or get enough sleep. Just all of those factors will help keep your immune system functioning. So we talked about a lot of stuff today. We're going to get rid of the two parts of the circles of the spheres of control we can't do anything about. And I want to remind you that even though we've been in a crazy world and a lot has happened that's been overwhelming and stressful and disorienting, this list is your best self-care list. So healthy eating, nature's foods, staying active, managing your stress, hand hygiene. I guess I didn't mention washing your hands, but just if you can get bacteria off the surface of your hands before you eat, before you put food into your body, you just have less bacteria your white blood cells have to deal with. Our mindset, staying in the full control, total control lane. And I also think about too, helping those in need. You might have friends that have caught what's going around right now. Be the good neighbor, be the good friend. Can you do a grocery run for someone that's on quarantine? Can you maybe drop off some batch cooking if someone needs it and they're trying to battle getting over it with every member of their family sick at once? Maybe you go and you get a roasted chicken and salad just to sort of hand off. So if you want a little more information, these are the main ways to reach me. And I want to move into taking questions. So that's my details of how to reach me. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go grab a laptop charger because I'm speaking from a laptop and I thought it'd be from my main computer. And then what I want to do is I want to open up the floor to questions. So I'll be back. Give me 2 seconds. And if whoever's moderating the chat, if you want to help sort of start to take a look at the questions coming through, I'm super happy to answer that. But let me make sure my battery doesn't die. 1 second. Guys, my sincerest apologies about all the tech issues. Normally I have a pretty good filming studio and it's one of those Fridays where that's how life goes. So thank you for your patience with me at the start as we sort of had a bumpy get-go with the sound and the echoes, and hopefully the sound quality was okay. So for those that have to run, I want to be mindful that it's a minute to 1 o'clock. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of your body, take care of your loved ones. And I hope you all learned at least something new today, and super happy to answer questions. So stop sharing my screen here.
There are a couple questions here. So one was around vitamin B complex.
Okay.
So are there benefits in taking the supplement and what foods may boost that intake?
Great question. So I'll read you. B complex isn't just one vitamin. The B complex is B1, B2, B3. Folate is actually a B complex vitamin. So that one I talked about in the dark green leafy veggies. It comes from a wide range of foods. The easiest way to kind of know the whole food list is if you want to just send me a message, the info at nutritionrx.ca. There's too many foods to list here. So just that person asking the question, send me an email and I will for sure send you the resource. And one of the things that's interesting about some of the B vitamins is they really support how our body uses protein. So that connects back to our white blood cells and those antibody sticks. So yes, to answer your question, the B vitamins are very helpful for protein or for immunity. Really, truly, almost all the vitamins and minerals are. I just would have been talking to you guys for 2 hours if I went through each one, but certainly not a bad thing to be taking for immune health.
Awesome. And another question is what dosage of vitamin D do you recommend?
Oh, great question. I'm so sorry I didn't mention that earlier. Okay. Adults, actually, anyone from age 1 to like age 1,000, however old we all live, needs 600 international units per day. I like to recommend 1,000. And here's why. If you take a supplement, so 600 is like what we want to get to, but you can certainly go over. The upper limit for vitamin D is 4,000, 4,000. So don't go beyond 4,000. Sometimes there's some calcium problems that can happen in the body. But here's what's cool about 1,000 a day. Imagine you're on a like bonus, say you won the lottery and you get 1,000 a week. And maybe your living expenses are 600 a week. Doesn't hurt to have the extra 400 bucks, right? Like kind of a nice thing to have. So if there's ever a day that you go out for dinner and you forget to bring your vitamin D bottle and the vitamin D doesn't get placed on dinner out, you go away for a long weekend and you don't pack the bottle, I like to just have people take 1,000 a day, because if there's a day or two that they forget, it slips their mind, they have that little bit of padding with the 400. You can even go up to 2,000 international units a day, and then maybe take it just a few times a week. So think about just the 600 a day, times that by how many days you're going to take it in the week, and then if you want to clunk it together and be like, I'm going to take it on Sundays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and then you take a little bit more, and then you're less regimented about it. Any way, shape, or form is okay. Just stay under 4,000 unless you've had a doctor look at your blood work, and there's medical conditions that actually need to be above 4,000, but you should be doing that with blood work and a family doctor. But if you stay under 4,000, totally safe. Minimum would be 600 international units. So that's all the dosing information. And I should have mentioned this on the whole food nutrition guide. I actually gave the gender and dosing amounts that are required, as well as the safety upper limits. So all the numbers are going to be right here if you would like a copy. So all done for you. But sorry, I didn't say that when I was talking about vitamin D.
Awesome. I really like that analogy. Like it's better to have that extra cash in your pocket, right?
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, exactly. As I have my vitamin D right at my desk. And then lastly was with vitamin D, is a little bit of milk in your coffee enough to absorb it?
Oh, because if you're having some milk that has fat, yes. So there are some grams, if you have like a 1 or 2% milk, if you're using skim milk, probably not. But yeah, if you have milk that has some fat, that's totally fine.
Awesome. Okay. And just a reminder, the presentation was recorded and we will have it posted for 1 month after today's session. There was a question about recording in the chat. So there's been so much great information that Jennifer has shared with us today that I definitely will be wanting to go back and recap on what she shared with us. So if there isn't any further questions, you're all free to go back to your day, and thank you for joining us. And Jennifer, thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to hear you speak, and it's always so motivating to eat more healthy.
That's all I try to do. Like I said, take what's up here. I know you guys are all smart, intelligent, hardworking people, and just find little practical ways to take nutrition out of our brains and into real life. So if even there was one healthy tip, that makes me so happy I got to speak in front of all of you. So thank you very much.
All right, everyone, enjoy your afternoons. Thanks again.
Have a great Friday, guys.